people who need disability supports, people who need NDIS plans, it's not an easy process at all, is it?
It's not. No, it's not at all.
I know that it's a 28-page application, and then you need to get a whole heap of documentation to support it from health professionals.
That's right, yes.
It's complicated for somebody with English as a first language. It must be so much more complicated for people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds.
It is, Nicky. People from CALD backgrounds have a very hard time accessing the NDIS. And the reason why, as you said, the NDIS access request form is 28 pages long, and that is only the application form. We haven't started collating documents, medical report, specialist reports. And for someone that does not speak English and does not understand the system here, and does not even know where to go to access support to be able to navigate the system, can get really overwhelmed with the whole process and discouraged to really apply for the NDIS. And that is why we see that people from CALD communities are significantly underrepresented in accessing the NDIS. Unfortunately, there are many, many barriers to that, but recently the NDIA has done their research and they've realized how difficult it has been for CALD individuals to access NDIS services and NDIS plans, and there's been some changes, some positive changes happening.
Well, we are going to talk about those positive changes in a moment. But first, we better let everyone know. Hi, I'm Nicky Sloan. I'm the CEO of Community Industry Group, and I'm coming to you today from the beautiful lands of the Dharawal people to bring you Community Matters, the podcast that explores community issues with people making a difference. And today I am joined by Melissa Antoun, and Melissa is the Disability Services Manager at a wonderful member organisation, the Illawarra Multicultural Services. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much.
In a previous episode of Community Matters, we talked about the fact that the NDIS is probably world leading in terms of providing disability supports for people with disability and for their families. But you're saying that for a significant portion of the community, they are just not accessing it. And you think that the process is a barrier to that access?
Under 10% of NDIS participants are from CALD background. There's a very low percentage of access. It should probably, the research says that it should be around 25 to 30%.
Right.
So that's the gap in the averages that we're talking about. And absolutely, as you said, there are many barriers that are not allowing individual from CALD communities to really access the NDIS. And that is, of course, we know the number one barrier: language, awareness, lack of culturally appropriate providers and services. And of course, we just mentioned the complexity of the system.
I'm just going to pause and let the listeners know that when we're talking about CALD, we're talking about people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. So it's an acronym that many of us are very comfortable with, but just to make sure everybody's aware of what we're talking about. So two barriers, maybe more. The one is the application process, and two is providers who are culturally safe and appropriate. I'm going to call Illawarra Multicultural Services IMS.
Yes.
Talking about acronyms. So what is IMS doing to address it?
IMS has been supporting people from multicultural background, refugees, migrants for over 45 years. And at the moment, what we've done is we had been funded by the NDIA to run a peer support and capacity building program. And that program is meant to support people from multicultural background that have a disability, and also support the carers to increase their knowledge, their skills, understand their rights, be able to access more services, whether it's mainstream or disability services or even health services, and of course, support them in accessing employment services. What we've been doing is we've created a hub that is inclusive, safe, accessible, and culturally appropriate for our community members to come and seek support. Anyone from a multicultural community that has a disability or that is caring for someone, they can come to our hub and access many workshops, training workshops, information sessions, art workshops, and of course, we always provide as well one-on-one supports to individual and anyone who is seeking to access the NDIS. We can dilute the process for them and make it more easy for them to comprehend it, explain everything step by step. More importantly, all of the workers are from multicultural backgrounds, so we speak the language, we understand the culture, and breaking those barriers has allowed people to come and feel safe in that hub. With disability, in many cultures, there is a stigma and a shame attached. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to have that understanding of the cultures we're working with and the communities we're working with. And that is why, again, a lot of our workers are from one of our workers, for example, Patrick, he's from a Congolese background, so he's the one that supports the African community workshops. We've got Wime, she is from the Myanmar and community, and she supports the Myanmar community workshops. And myself, being from the Middle Eastern background, I support the Arabic groups. And so we make sure that whoever is working with a community really understand that community and understand that background very well, and all the stigmas that are attached to it. But as you said, Nicky, there are many community groups that find it difficult to access services, or they're not really encouraged to access services because for so long, many of the providers and the services haven't been really culturally appropriate. We're talking about sometimes we call services, they don't even have interpreting services. Yeah. So that would make a person not very encouraged to access those services.
So you work with all of those community members. Do you work at all with providers to upskill providers? Or what, if there are providers watching or listening today, what could they do to make themselves more culturally appropriate?
Yes, of course. So the main purpose of the program, which is called BRIDGE now, which is Building Responsive, Inclusive, Diverse Group Engagement. That's what the acronym for BRIDGE.
BRIDGE,
we changed it from the peer support and capacity building to BRIDGE. And the main purpose of this program is to support, of course, community members who have a disability and also carers, reduce that isolation, get them involved, and get them to understand the system and not be fearful from it. But also it is to collaborate with stakeholders in the area and work together to break those gaps. Mm-hmm. And I'll give an example. For example, we have a collaboration with the local area coordinators. And the reason why we collaborated is we understand that they're on the ground doing the work, we're supporting people to access the NDIS, but we also know that they're always overflooded with applications. And sometimes when people from a multicultural background access Uniting to apply, that language barrier might be an issue. So when we went to Uniting and spoke to the local area coordinators, we wanted to understand where is the gap and how we can support them as well, and also educate about how an interpreter on the phone sometimes might not be ideal, because that person is sitting in a room with a local area coordinator, maybe two individuals, and an interpreter on the phone, and they're getting bombarded by all of these information that they've never heard of, and these complicated NDIS terminologies. And just having someone on the phone just interpreting might not be enough. You need someone to support you, to be with you. So we can be that person. And that is how we've been working with several stakeholders as well, so we can all work collaboratively in making the system work better for everyone.
And just once again for our listeners and watchers, Uniting is the provider for local area coordinators in this region, yes. Which can also form somewhat of a barrier for because Uniting is a faith-based organisation, and so maybe people from different faith groups might find it challenging to engage with a local area coordinator from a Christian organisation?
That can be sometimes the case. Sometimes in certain communities, they do not feel safe accessing. There's a lack of trust, to be honest. There's a big lack of trust. So many people do not feel safe when accessing certain services because of past negative experiences. And that is a huge deal for them to be able to just rock up to an organization and just start talking to someone that is not even from their own background, let alone doesn't speak the language. And that is why we say that it is very important for them to have that support person with them that shares that culture with them and that background that can take them through the process and help them access those sort of services. Mm-hmm. But yes, absolutely, it can be a big deal for someone to be sitting across another person that does not share the culture, does not share the same background, the same language. Absolutely, that can be a big barrier.
Which is why the word bridge is such a great, it is a great acronym. Yes. Yeah, it really is what you're doing. The NDIS and the services available through NDIS can be absolutely life-changing. So the fact that only 10%, you said, of people who are accessing it now are from CALD background is quite concerning. Of those who have negotiated the system, found their way through, and you were talking about the lack of culturally appropriate services, how many of those people do you think are using their full package, are really getting the most out of their NDIS?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you touching on that topic, because when someone finds their way into the NDIS, finally, after all of the paperwork and the bureaucracy and all of it, most people from a non-English speaking background, they do not understand what the plan is. So they have a plan, but they do not understand what it is, what the plan is, how to utilize their fund. Sometimes within a plan, you have to set some goals, and those goals will reflect what sort of funding you will get. Some people come to us and they didn't even set their own goals. So unfortunately, even when someone gets an NDIS plan, it does not mean that they understand what they have in their hand. And that is where we go back to the barrier of lack of knowledge and awareness. And that will lead to the underutilization of the funds appropriately. We have a lot of clients who come to us with plans that are 2 years old. They've had access to the NDIS for that long, and barely the funds have been touched. And that is because they didn't understand how to use it, where to go, who to ask, seek support and help from, to coordinate their supports. Unfortunately, because so many people do not understand what the NDIS plan is and how it's supposed to be utilized, how those funds are supposed to be utilized, that gives a lot of fraudulent providers a position to take advantage of these vulnerable people and take over that plan and drain that funding without actually delivering any services, or overcharging sometimes. And through Bridge, we're very glad that we can say now that these people now understand that they've been taken advantage of, and they're coming to us to seek support so we can organize the right services for them and take them away from what the other providers that have been taken advantage of. So unfortunately, you always have these organizations that are going to take advantage and try to manipulate the system. But we understood through this program, through Bridge, that the people who have the plans genuinely have no idea that their plans and their funding and their money has been utilized and mismanaged in that way.
Well, thank goodness that you're there to do that. And unfortunately, that does happen. But yes, it's wonderful that you're able to intervene and support people to understand. I know that, we hear stories that, yes, people get exploited, or else people often have a sense of having to save them money and so they don't spend it just because of, I think, a cultural or maybe a past history of not having money and then thinking that they've got to save that. Do you come across that as well?
Absolutely. We do, yes. And those are the funny ones, because unfortunately they do that because of that exploitation. They go through a few providers that have exploited the funds in their plan, and now they're overprotective over the funds. So now they don't want to spend it anymore because they're afraid that if you spend it, they're gonna they're not going to have any funds left in the plan, and maybe they're not going to get another plan. So again, we go back to the lack of understanding of the NDIS plan, of the system, how it works, and it makes them overly protective on the funds and not wanting to really spend it. And we do see as well in a lot of research that people from CALD communities, when they do have plans, it's underutilized. The percentage is way lower than the general population.
Yeah. And when somebody underutilises a plan, that means they're not getting all of the services and supports that could make a difference in their life. And also often it means that their next plan is going to be lower. Have you found that too?
True, absolutely. Because sometimes when the NDIA is reviewing the plan and they see, okay, well, that person is not using that fund, which means they don't need it. Oh, they're doing good. Their capacity has been built. They're more independent. Unfortunately, it's not the case. It's because they didn't understand how to use the funding, and it hasn't been properly used, and they haven't benefited from it. So yes, that can be the case in a lot of scenarios where the plan that rolls over into the following year has less funds.
And I think that is something in people from English-speaking backgrounds as well. So I can only imagine how much more complex it is for people where English is not your first language.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it is complex we hear a lot of stories where people from the English is their first language, they've lived in Australia, they were born in Australia, they understand the system, and they feel like the system is overwhelming and the whole process is overwhelming, as you said, let alone someone that does not speak the language.
Yeah. The work you're doing, Melissa, and IMS is doing is amazing, and all we can say is thank you for the difference that you're making. We've talked a lot about the NDIS and the access to it. Is there anything that you haven't had the chance to say, anything you'd like to add?
Absolutely. I just want to say that the work that we're doing through Bridge, it is a collective work. We've been all working as a team to be able to support our communities, because we've seen for so long how isolated they've been, how much they need the services that they're now getting access to, but they haven't been able to access it because of that language barrier and all, and other barriers, of course. So we're very proud of the hub that we've been able to create for them to come and feel safe, feel that this is a place where they can come and access, and whatever service or training they're gonna gain, it's gonna be in language, it's gonna be culturally appropriate, and something that we've seen since the start of the program, which is people from the community are referring other community members. Usually we get our referrals from organizations, but because they've been so happy and they can see the changes in their lives and the impact, they've been referring other people from within their community to come to access Bridge and so they can learn more and feel more confident and navigate the system better, and of course access all of the incredible services that are available out there.
So finally, Melissa, this podcast is called Community Matters. Could you tell us about somebody in the community that matters to you?
Yes, I want to talk about one community member that I've been working with for the last year in our program, and her name is Shahad. She has a disability. She's deaf, and Shahad, before she started coming to us, she suffered through a lot of depression and mental health as well, because she lacked that access to support services and the services that she needed. But she just flourished through the program, and she's been attending our art workshops, and the art that she creates is magnificent. Mm-hmm. And she has inspired us all to support her into starting her own business. And from that, we actually created a course to support individuals with disability to start their own businesses. So we've collaborated as well with KCC, Kayama Community College, to create a course that is culturally appropriate in language for these people. And just seeing her and the way she's so inspiring. She brings, when she smiles, she just brings happiness and just amazing vibes to the room. And she's been a very incredible person to work with, and to see her flourish, it just brings a lot of fulfillment, really. And that is why I feel sometimes it is so worth it to do this work, because you can see people in the community just progress like that, and it allows them to showcase what sort of skills they have and just hone those skills and run with it.
Yeah, and I can see from your face how much it means to you. That's lovely.
Yes,
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for telling us about the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for the difference that you're making for people from CALD backgrounds and helping them with their NDIS. It is a complicated system, but it is world leading, and it is important that they access it. So thank you very much. And thank you all for tuning in to Community Matters, where we discuss the issues that are important to community with the people who are making a difference. Please like us, share this episode, subscribe, and tune in next time for more Community Matters.